First of all, this is a Leadership Emotional Develop LLC. Um, I have the great honor of working with this company, and they're giving me the opportunity to present a webinar based on the mechanics of decision-making process. Okay. My name is Dr. Ward. I'm a retired Air Force E7. I also retired from Delta Airlines, and I have spent many years as far as making decisions, both good and bad. And with that comes along knowing what's in store as a leader, what is needed for the people that work under you, because a decision can affect the whole organization. We can go on the next slide. You cannot make progress without making a decision. You know, nothing can roll without a decision. And a great general, Schwarzkopf, once said that making no decision is like making a bad decision. So we have to kind of just go with what we sometimes will call a gut feeling to make a decision. Okay, and what we're going to cover in these contexts are the following segments: mechanics of decision making, the decision making under uncertainty, the 5 steps in decision making, the principle of decision making SWOT, analyzing the decision making process and the future of decision making. And at the end, we'll just have summarize all this up, and we can kind of break this down and ask questions if you want. Next slide, please. Okay, the mechanics of decision making. This is a general concept that is based on the approach towards understanding and planning and addressing the particular problems within your organization. This principle will work with all types of business, small, medium, and large. And with that said, there's an approach for different. If you have a small business, there's a chart that you can have. It's a software that can have where you can input the information, particularly based on your business, and that'll go into a large scale. Right now, we're just gonna go to the basics where we can get an understanding. And I have some references that you can go to. There's a lot of YouTube pages on this to give you further information based on what your need is. It's a small, large, or medium organization. This theory of decision is the foundation of the decision-making process, and it's illustrated by communication, planning, research, and review. By defining the contents, identifying with all the tasks, and then applying the proper assessment, you will come up with a solution that fits your organization. And see what the mechanics of decision making will sometimes involve risk that will have an impact on your organization. And what they call that particularly is called risk response. And this process controls and identify risk based on the ability of achieving the organization's goals and objectives. The risk response process relies on the following: termination. Let's stop doing whatever it is that's causing the problem within your organization. Treat. You want to implement measures to reduce the problem. Tolerance. If it's worth it, accept risks as part of doing business until a solution can be found. And last, transfer. You can pass this risk or problem on to another experienced person on your team in order to get a positive outcome. Okay, the next slide, please. Okay, slide number 7. Also, as management, we all understand a huge impact on organizations and the decision-making process. Let's focus on some of the negative and bad decision that can be made. Number 1, failure to check the facts. If you don't understand what's going on with the problem, you may see what's at the top, but you have to go to the root of the problem. Because if you just take off what's on top, it's going to grow, and you keep going back to the drawing board. Number 2, not anticipating unexpected events. Be prepared for changing. The climate's forever changing in today's organization, and you have to be abreast of that when it comes to making your decisions. Being certain when facing complex decisions. Try not to shy away from them. As long as you do your research and you have the experience and you evaluate what's going on, that will be a big help when making decisions. Strategy alignment all plays a part in making a decision. And number 5, fail to recognize the importance following the decision-making process. And what that entails is once you make a decision, just don't leave it. Go back, follow up on these decisions, because when you follow up, that lets you know that things are still continuing the way the decision is made. If not, it will go back to norm. Go back to what it was. So definitely, go through that process after making a decision. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, on this one, number 6, to continue the process, what you're doing as far as what we talked about in the first 5 bullets that we're talking about. Number 7, you want to limit rationale such as cost. Keep that in mind. Keep the human personality in there, and then the time, and also technology. Technology is very, very important these days because they have software to cover every aspect of an organization. And there's different ones out there that you can get into that will help you make a decision for your organization based on the needs. Okay, in order to avoid a bad decision, rely on logic. Next slide, please. Could I have Ron? Would you mind reading that next slide for me?
Making good decisions is a crucial skill at every level.
Yes, it is. Every level. A decision. I don't care if you're at the top or you're on the line. The decision is crucial. Next slide, please. Okay, the decision making under uncertainties. Okay, this also has a lot of definitions to a lot of moving parts when it comes to uncertainty within the organization. Okay, it is when the decision maker don't know or understand the fact or consequences involved based on the matter at hand. Many of the decision-making process in today's organizations are done with the decision maker not understanding the consequences and based on the organization's condition. Again, as I keep mentioning, you have to understand what is the problem. You have to do your investigation of the problem. You have to ask around about the problem, and again, if there's software available, plug that information in so you can get a good result. For managers to become more effective in the decision-making process, they need to be able to research. to go out there and find that information and then approach the situation with a reasonable and a rational.
That applies, Dr. Ward, I'm sorry, is that applied to everything, including, let's say, malfunction of equipment or anything that can stop your production?
Well, and again, as I said, is vary on what organization that you have.
Okay.
Say, for example, if you have an organization that's planning a big move, you want to research the location where you want to go. You want to research the logistic parts of that. How you get your equipment there? The time. What's the time limit? The production. How many units are you going to need on hand? To make this move successful without interfering with your customers. So that's what I meant about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Did that answer your question there? That's good?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good question. Okay, and experience and good judgment and understanding of the situation always plays a major role in this particular process. And again, this has a very, very high importance when it comes to making your decisions. And I have a couple of books that I keep on the shelf. One is Decision Making Under Uncertain Models and Choices by Charles Holloway. And it's a quick read, and it goes through the question that Dr. Rick asked me. It covers that. It covers this, what do you do when an employee is late? How do you handle that? So it goes from the top all the way to the bottom. So, things like that, that's part of your research. Always have something on hand, and again, I usually, or it's mostly to have, go to the veterans. By me being in the military, a lot of things that we did not knowing. But once we talk to veterans that been in that position 10, 15 years and been through the problems, through the good and the bad, it will make the decision process more easier to manage. Okay. When there is no ample information available about the certain situations or conditions based on the matter of hand, the decision maker can depend upon one of the 4 decision-making uncertainty principles. Can we go to the next slide there? And it's the maximum. Did it come up? It's taking its time there. There we go. The maximum theory is determine the worst possible payoff for each situation. Max and Max determines the best possible payoffs and choices for the situation. The Laplace determines the advantages for each situation chosen by the best average. And then the maximum regrets determines the worst regrets for the situation and choosing the best and worst. And all of these can be, it's a formula for all this. So the formula, and it's getting more, I can spend 2 hours just talking about the formula when using these 4 particular bullets. So it gives you a payoff for whatever you want, wherever your situation is, these particular bullets can help it. And basically, the question Dr. Rick has asked.
Yeah, I also like to add to this that right after the course is taken, I have a 1-hour video workshop with the definitions that Dr. Ward is giving, and the examples, so you can understand much in depth of what this is entitled. And you can see the formulation it will be extensive for this course, but if I send you this video, I encourage you to look at it because it shows you step by step each of these definitions that Dr. Ward has explained. Because attending this class, you have earned it free. So after the course is finished tonight, I will be emailing you this video and I will be emailing you the workshop with all these details, okay? Go ahead, Dr. Ward.
Thank you. We can move on to the next slide, please. Okay, here, the 5 basic steps to decision making. You want to state the problem. You know, you want to understand what the problem is about. You know, if you know who's causing the problem, why does the problem exist, and you want to try to address it correctly and have a clear mind when doing stuff. Number 2, it's identifying the problem. Sometimes the only options for solving a problem is just to do it, you know, just to see. Sometimes you have to put fillers out there, you know, to see what is it going to take, you know, and if not, you know, make the adjustment from there. It is wise and worth it when the decision maker researches and understanding the problems. This is to ensure that the decision maker has as many good choices as possible. Okay. Number 3, evaluate the problem. This step is essential part of the decision. Essential part of the decision part of this decision-making process. That was a mouthful there. By allowing the decision maker to review all the pros and cons before making a decision. And I know a lot of this stuff is, I'm hitting on it, if you could tell, on the same, each of these segments has the same type of, I want to say, grip to it. You know, you gotta make adjustments. You know, you have to analyze each problem. So let's move on to the next slide, please, Dr. Rick. Number 4, making a decision. Once that the decision maker has identified the problem, gathering all the possible information and then weigh in on the consequences. After getting rid of all of the options that doesn't apply or are silly or not practical and it doesn't fit, you know, you move on. Feel comfortable about the decision. Be able to trust your instincts in your decision-making process. And sometimes, you know, the situation calls where it can be overwhelming. And, you know, take time out, you know, maybe take an hour, you know, go to the gym, go walking, go biking, go do something that, you know, that can, you know, free your mind. And when you come back, you have fresh eyes and a fresh mind to work out this particular problem. And number 5, last one, is implement a decision. A decision has no value unless the decision is put into play. It is a finding to seek out other experts with your organization to help you. You know, don't be too proud to ask for help or questions on dealing with any particular problem within your organization. This successful steps in the implementation phase is follow up. This phase will ensure that the decision sticks and works.
Now, bear in mind, if I may add, bear in mind also, as years go by and you get as older as me and Dr. Ward, obviously you're going to make decisions on the fly. Be sure if you're going to make a decision, you have the facts. In 1980, 83, and I was sitting down in Mission Control when I hear my boss receiving a phone call from the White House that we all heard on the speakers, in where we were basically forced to launch the Space Shuttle Challenger. And unfortunately, it cost 7 lives. That type of decision, in where somebody asks you and tells you, Jesse, it's time for you to take your engineering hat off and put your manager hat on, it was a wrong decision. So, like Dr. Ward said, you need to make sure you have your facts straight. And if there is scientifically proven that if you launch, you're going to create an explosion, don't launch.
That's right.
Okay, so that is important. That stay impregnated in my mind, because I was sitting in Cape Canaveral when the ceiling opened and I saw the Challenger debris coming down. That was not right. Once in my life, I felt very insecure because that decision never should have taken place.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Very good one. Thank you, Dr. Ricardo. Appreciate it. The next slide, we're going to talk about the principles of decision making. The principle of a decision making would depend on the manager, professional skills, and judgment. The principle of decision making can be linked back to the last 5 decision making steps. So the principle also ties into the 5 basic steps of decision making. When decision maker must be able to, be aware of the problem, like you say, understand the problem, make that problem theirs. This is the first principle when pinpointing the problem. Once the problem has been addressed and defined by the decision maker, then the problem is ready to be solved based on your decision or decisions of, your team. Please do your research so that you won't waste time solving the wrong problem. And like I stated earlier, get to the root of the problem, not just the surface, but the root of the problem is very important. Slide number 15, also the principle of evidence. Making decisions ensures that the principle of evidence is applied to the decision-making process. This approach to be basically, like I said, judgment and knowing the facts. As Dr. Ricardo mentioned earlier, the facts are very important. You have to have the facts on what's going on, not just what you hear, and even sometimes what you read. Make sure you have facts. This type of confirmation is based on research. You can get good facts when you research. You just have to take the time to do that. As leaders, that's what it is. Sometimes you may have to burn that midnight oil to get that, but it's always good to have the facts and the confirmation of what you're doing. Again, you want to have confidence in your decision when you make it, knowing that you went through all the channels to solve this particular problem within your organization. Not having these type of proof will have a negative effect on your decision. Okay. Principle of character. Everyone has a different outlook and viewpoint when it comes to a certain situation. This is why it is very important for the decision maker to try to accommodate the viewpoints of everyone involved. For example, if you're on the assembly line and you are a first line supervisor, you want to make sure you have some input from the guys and the ladies that's working on the line, because they're actually doing the work, so they know. You also want to have some input from your supervisor, so you can explain what's going on and how the decision is being made of what you're going to do. So it's very important when you do that. And
there are tools for that. They're very much important tools. In engineering, just to be short of that, in engineering, Dr. Ward, we use a fishbone analysis.
What?
A fishbone analysis.
Okay.
A fishbone analysis, and we also use the 5 whys. Why, until you get to the root cause. Every morning when we have an executive meeting, we have to tell you why was the line or the production stopped for 25 minutes. And you need to show a fishbone analysis, which is another tool that is being used in the manufacturing industry, in where you analyze the problem until you get the RTA. That's the root cause analysis.
Great point. And the last bullet on this, before arriving to a decision, sometimes you get a survey, and ask questions. Okay, the next slide, please. Christine, may I have the honor for you to read this one for us?
Sure. It's not hard to make decisions once you know what your values are.
Exactly. You have to have the values, and a lot of values, and sometimes you may have mixed emotions when it comes to values, but that's why the company has their values and their mission statement. So, most of the decision has to be based on that analogy. Next step, please. Okay, the next one. Mr. Ricardo, can you read that statement for us?
The decision, the SWOT analysis, right?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Let's assume that you are a small janitorial firm with 6 employees. Your company has been servicing 20 to 25 small business buildings in a suburban area. You have recently found out that a large office building nearby is looking for a new janitorial service. It would be a very lucrative contract, but you will have to triple the size of your company overnight to handle it. You don't want to jeopardize what you already have. Here is your SWOT analysis of the situation.
Okay. We can go to the next slide. Okay. Cole, can you read the strength and the weaknesses of this particular situation?
Yep. So for the strength, we have, what are your organization's core strengths? Know how to do janitorial work.
Yes, you have to know.
So go ahead.
I'm sorry. You can go ahead. I'll let you finish. Sorry.
2, what unique resources are available? Have close relations with another janitorial company. What strengths can be acquired? Could contract with other janitorial companies to meet the load.
And the weaknesses?
Weaknesses. What are the perceived weaknesses? Not experienced servicing large facilities. 2, what resources are inadequate? Not enough manpower. 3, what weaknesses cannot be overcome? Time conflicts with current contracts.
Thank you, Cole. Now, anyone have any questions about the strength and the weakness about this scenario? We kind of get the gist of how to go in there and make these analysis. Okay, the next one. Mr. Carlos, will you mind reading the opportunities and threats for me? Dr. Ricardo, can you go back one?
I can. I need the previous slide. Yes.
There we go.
Yes. Okay. There is it.
Appreciate it.
Opportunities. 1. What is the value of the present opportunity? The contract would be very lucrative. 2. Is value enhanced by evolving market technology conditions? There are many new office buildings being constructed. 3. Is value enhanced by your organization's core strengths? There's no answer there.
And I would say yes. I didn't put that in, but it'd be yes. The threats.
Threats. 1. Are there market technology conditions that reduce the value? There are a limited number of available workers. 2. What is the level of competition? Completion is moderate. 3. Will your weaknesses limit your success? Must be able to find additional workers.
Great job. Thank you all. And that's just the basic way of putting together these strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat chart. You just take your situation that you're in and you develop a scenario for it. And then you just take the opportunity, the strength, the weakness, and threat, and put them out. And this will help you to make a positive decision on the problem that's within your organization. Thank you all again. Next slide. Ron, can you handle this one for me, sir?
Looking at decision-making and problem-solving at the same time.
Wow. That's a juggling act sometimes. But this is some of the things that we have to be geared to do, to multitask. A lot of things that's coming at us at one time. Sometimes you may have 2 or 3 problems going on, and you have to make a decision. So we have to keep, that in mind. It's very stressful. Again, sometimes you may have to take time and a breather, to understand what's going on, put them in priority when you're making a decision. Slide number 17, please. I'm sorry, next slide. Okay, analyzing the decision-making process. Analyzing the decision-making process, it needs to be known that it takes time to build awareness. And if you got the time, understand it. Again, dig down to the root of that problem. Vision works well in specific situations that provide good clues and rapid feedback. It is easy to make a bad judgment when the decision-making process is unclear and rushed. Next slide. Okay. Making and analyzing the decision should be a rational process based on essential elements towards human activity and productivity. The value of a decision affects our lives in a profound way. This is why it's important to understand and study the decision-making process. The decision maker has several options, like identifying, evaluating the problem. By comparing multiple options, this approach will aid in the best results. 22, please. Next slide. I think we go, okay. The untaught decision-making process, is a method that relies on experience and ability to recognize the key elements of a problem. And we kind of touched on that earlier, the experience from yourself and from others. It's going to be times where you don't have to do research. You don't have to, do anything but say, okay, this needs to be done, that needs to be done, and it's taught because it's a situation. And, hey, sometimes we learn from making a bad decision, so by the rapid integration, each cause of the problem while making the proper and correct decision. This approach will enhance the credibility of the decision maker within providing the best solution or correct answer to any problem. Bottom line is that the untaught decision-making process rely upon an overall experience in the decision maker to generate a workable solution as we go on. Next slide. We try to find out which is best. Each of the decision-making methods that we discussed up to this point has their strengths and weaknesses based on the nature of the situation. For example, planning ahead and carefully reviewing all the important issues and logic approaches to the problem at hand. A rapid action is required when time is measured by days and hours. This is the time to apply the unthought decision-making process because personal knowledge and clear understanding of the problem is very useful within your organization. Okay, we're going to go to the next one, the decision-making techniques. Okay. There we go. Thank you. If you want to feel comfortable about your decision, rely on your insight, your research, your experience, along with different decision-making techniques. For example, again, I'm going to hit this home again. The 5 decision-making processes will benefit the decision makers to understand how the process fits together when making a decision within your organization. The decision-making metrics is a great tool to use when investigating and evaluating the issues within your organization. Having the right software having the right software is a good opportunity when considering your goals and objectives. And as we went back as the strength, the weaknesses, the opportunities and threat chart is a great system to use to analyze the problem. Okay, number 4, the decision-making techniques. The managers must understand the problem, as I've been hitting at you, and make rational decisions to create a positive atmosphere and solution to the problem. Okay, slide number 25. Dr. Ricardo, one more time for me, sir. Can you read that? I think you're on mute. Okay, I'll read it. Almost any decision is better than no decisions at all.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, almost any decision is better than no decision at all.
I agree. I agree. You have to make a decision when it comes to something. And even if we go back and we talk about the max type of decision, the Laplace, when it says that you have to deal with a problem until you find the solution, so it plays a part. So when you get that software, definitely look into it and help. It's just a lot of different things that'll be beneficial for the organization. Okay, next slide, 26. Okay, creating the future. Making poor choices. Many decision makers made a poor choice sometime in their experience. This is true for everyone from top executives to a person that's working on the line. When it comes to data research, experience, evaluation, and investigation of the problem at hand, this eliminates a poor choice in a decision. As the world gets more complex and demand fast-paced decision-making become the difference between success and obsolete. Okay, slide 27. Okay, case. Okay, we got here case-based reasoning is designed to solve new problems by taking the previous success or non-successful issues within the organization. When addressing the information within the technology or the software used, the system can memorize, implement, identify, retrieve, reuse, revisit, and retain large volume of information. That's some great stuff right there. It kind of acts as a journal, when you're trying to, manage your different areas, especially when you're multitasking. And if you have sort of like a journal, what this is pretty, to me, what is, what I call it, the case-based reasoning. You can put all this stuff in there and it analyze it as it goes, as far as numbers, figures, facts, research. So when it comes down to making decisions, when to move this piece of equipment. How many units to have available when moving. How much manpower is going to be needed. What's going to be paid or not going to be paid. So it's a very useful tool.
I mean, the word that reminds me. If all of you look at that number 16 on that automatic vehicle, that's a vehicle that is called an AGV, an automatic vehicle. We were able to manipulate the algorithms inside that machine, because that is one of the brewers in where I work, in where the number 16 understand that his power in the battery was down below 20%, and it will break formation from his normal programming course, and it will go to the wall, unplug itself, and another AGV will unplug and take his place. That's a decision making, of course, of a human telling the machine what to do when the battery is low.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And just looking at those pictures, it's a lot of logistics, a lot of things in play, and when you have to move those type of equipment.
Yeah.
So
you program them, and you basically, the units that you see there are programmed, and they are hooked to the satellites, and where they move them around, mapping around, and they will stop in front of you and they beep and tell you to get out of the way. You
That's
get out of the
technology.
way, you get out of the way, and the algorithm tell them, okay, no object present, move on, and it's still.
Wow, that's good.
How's that for decision making, huh?
That's I tell you, this, I mean, this is not just like a 1 hour segment. This is like a semester. It will take pretty much a couple of semesters to get all this in tune.
And
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you, that's where we're going. Ron, you should know that, right? That's the direction that we are all going, and we will continue going until a robotic can come back and show emotions that they don't have.
Thank you. Slide number 27, like going back to creating the future. Collecting stories, giving the decision maker the opportunity to apply information, wisdom, and veterans members within the organization. And we kind of touched bases earlier. You know, don't be afraid to go talk to someone that's been there for a while, that knows the ins and outs of your organization. You know, sit down with a cup of coffee and just take notes. Again, this information can be inputted into a system where it will help you make a better decision for the organization. This method checks the logic behind every decision to provide positive feedback, okay? And the decision-making software. Next slide, please. Is, you know, we've been talking about all, you know, the decision-making software is the future. The software can aid any organization and decision maker to find the problem, information they need to solve the problem or issues within the organization. Decision-making training objective is to support the decision maker and the upcoming decision makers into making better decisions by offering classes, webinars, lectures, and on-the-job training in decision-making process. This type of decision-making training needs to be genuine. It needs to be realistic. It needs to be complex. And it needs to be based on the organization's goals and objectives. And most of all, it needs to be fun. Okay, next slide. Just a quick review what we all covered within this last hour. You know, the mechanics of the decision-making process, the decision-making uncertainties, the 5 steps in decision-making, the principles of decision-making. We talked about the decision-making strengths, weaknesses, and threats, analyzing the decision-making process, and the future of decision-making. And that wraps it up. If anyone have any questions, please feel free.
I have a question.
Sure.
First, thank you so much for this presentation. Very informative. And I mean, a lot of these things are essentially transferable into life in general.
Exactly.
So definitely appreciate you for sharing this. And I know you mentioned that some of the things that, you know, you spoke about and you know, I would say the overarching theme of what you've discussed today can be put into like a semester of learning and whatnot. You know, what would you say just out of what you've presented today would be the most, you know, vital parts of, you know, effective decision-making? Because I know you spoke a little bit about being able to kind of rationalize, analyze, you know, utilize logic when making decisions. And I'm more someone who's kind of, I learned through association. You know, so it's like, okay, in this scenario or in this situation, just kind of like what you did with the employees and the janitor and the business and things like that. So what would you say, just kind of more from an application standpoint, would be the most vital thing that we should take away from this presentation?
That's a great question, Christian. I'm glad you asked that. I would say the 5 steps of decision making. Because with the 5 steps of decision making, you know, you got all this in one bundle. It tells you how to understand the problem, you know, define the problem, to analyze the problem, you know. So there's 5 steps that go a long way. Research the problem. That's the basic, and that can be applied in both on the job and off the job. You know, once you grasp that, you know, anything else is a plus. You know, it's great for it, you know, and that's just the easiest scenario to take with you. If you don't take anything out of this, you know, it's that those 5 basic steps can go a long way and help you become a better decision maker.
One of the, if you don't mind, I'd like to add to what you're saying, Dr. Ward. Christine, in that video that we're going to send you, one of the things that is very important to know is that in every decision you make, there's a risk, and you need to understand what risk analysis it is. And in that video, you'll see how can you measure the risk that you're going to take in every decision you make. Because risk could be this small, it could be big. So I think that what Dr. Ward said is right on the money. Those steps are essential. And within those steps, after the Laplace, you will see that there's a risk analysis that you need to understand it very well so you can do firm decisions once you take mathematically all that risk analysis in logical, like Dr. Ward said, and you come out completely confident that you make that decision and you stand by that decision. So.
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you both so much.
Thank you. I would like to, if you allow me, to share with you some experiences. When I was a child, my father used to say me, when I was learning at the school with this great guy, Ricardo Pineda, here on the same school, and we had homework to do at home. One of the things that I have always in mind is that if you want to solve a problem, you have to understand it first. Mm-hmm. If you don't understand it, you don't have that house that will make you solve the problem. So that's a very important part that we have to keep it in mind always. First thing, understand the problem.
Right.
Get the facts.
That's the key, no? For solutions. And solutions, you have many solutions for one problem. It's not only one solution there.
Exactly.
And the other thing is that when we don't take decisions, there will be somebody else taking decisions for us. So it's up to us to make decisions or let somebody else to make decisions for us. Know that are things that life teach you. It's not on books, it's not on classrooms, but life, yes, is the best teacher we have, I think. Sure, yes.
So I have a question. First of all, thank you for having me. This has been very insightful. I was wondering, do you think that setting a success criteria should be part of the decision-making process, or should it be treated as a separate entity as far as making decisions is concerned?
Cole, that's it. I think it all is based on what your company needs. You know, some companies that'll be too much for, but if you know whatever and they have, like I said, the software that they have today is based on a large, small, and medium corporation. So it may be great for a medium and large, but not so great for a small, corporation.
Great. Thank you.
I mean, is it more like any more details? Maybe I can kind of elaborate more.
I'm sorry, say it again.
So with that question, is any more like details? I can probably elaborate more, or
It's more for general question, just to understand the context a little bit. But that gives me some insight into it, because like you said, it varies, right? Depending on what the needs of the organization are, you have to kind of align with that, and that makes perfect sense.
And I think I mentioned earlier a couple of books. That's the decision making of uncertainty. It's models and choices. About 20 pages, and it's an easy read, and it talks about that. What do you just mentioned? Based on your organization. And
right you share that with us?
I think I told you it was by Dr. Charles Holloway. It's called Decision Making Under Uncertainties: Models and Choices. And like I say, it's a quick read. I think it's like $10. And then another one called Managerial. What I got here? Managerial Decision Under Uncertainties by Bruce Burdock. And it's kind of like, I'm kind of old school, so it's always charts and drafts, and now I'm trying to get into the technology of making these decisions, that's tracking my decisions. As I stated earlier, I retired from the military, and a lot of decisions that wasn't made on a lot of things that we talked about, and when you make decisions like that, people get hurt, and you think about it every day. So that's why it's important to have everybody's buy-in when it comes to making a decision for others. Sometimes you might not like it, the decision, but try to get an understanding of what's going on. And these two books have been very instrumental to me. I kind of like refer to them when I have questions, because again, my company does work for large and small businesses. So when they come to me with a scenario, I got to switch it to whatever meets their needs. It may be 15 employees, it may be 90 employees. So, you have to have, time plays a big part in it. It might be going to the drawing board and papers everywhere. Now there's software that can help you. So definitely look into that. And you look into that. As long as you got the 5 basic decision-making process keys, you can input anything in that, and it'll come out with a rational decision. Yes.
I remember going to get my GRE examination, and I used to come in there with a pile of books and sit down right next to it for the next 6 hours that lasted the exam. Okay.
Yes.
Today, my nephew walked to get his GRE with one calculator.
Times has changed. Yes.
All 15 textbooks are inside.
Yes.
That's how powerful the software is. So,
Yes.
you know,
All the formulas you need, all the statistics you need, it's in there now.
it is. It really is.
So you just need to plug
Yeah.
it in. And then if you know, if not, if your budget allows, you got consultants that can help you out with decision making.
Yes, it is. Dr.
So
Ward,
it's-
that was a wonderful class. We really
Yeah.
thank you for that. And,
I thank
Thank
you
you
all
very much.
for participating. And it was an honor to do this for your organization, Dr. Ricardo.
thank you much.
Brian, it was good seeing you again. Also, Carlos, good to see you again. Christine, it was good
Listen.
meeting you and seeing
Likewise.
you.
Listen, before
Thank you very
before you
much.
leave, Dr. Ward, just remember Ron and all of you guys. Next month we start the sequence of emotional intelligence classes, in which you're all invited to it. We're going to be hitting pretty much on Daniel Goleman's principles. I know that most of you know who he is, and we're going to be talking about the resonance leader, how to lead with resonance. So don't miss it. It's going to be fun. If I believe that Ryan Prinkle will be teaching that class, and I will be seconding because I will give the advanced emotional intelligence class before we enter to the last 3 modules: leadership, after and before and after, and that and so forth. With that, I'll give back to your class, Dr. Ward, so you can say goodnight to all of us.
Okay. Again, I thank you all. I appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, okay. Again, I thank you all. I appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, you think of a little later, don't hesitate to text me or email me. I'm here.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Bye.
Good
Have a
night.
nice
Night and
week.
good day to some people, right?
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Behave well. Bye bye.